Welcome to All Lacrosse Live. Guys, you're in for a big treat tonight. We've got a huge show for you. We have Michelle Bowyer with us. She should be on in about 10 minutes or so. We're going to be talking about all the things of women's lacrosse, the good, the bad, the ugly, and anything in between. This should be an informative show, to say the least. With me, of course, I've got my co-hosts, which is Shawn Slaght over in Moose Jaw. How are you, Shawn?
Doing pretty good. How about yourself, Gary?
Very good, very good. And down in Connecticut, I have Muffler Mike Kostiuk. How are you, Mike?
I'm doing good, Gary.
That's great. We have a busy week all around anyways, because on top of all that, we do have still MSL heading into the playoffs, WLA getting into the thick of things. We have the OJLL already in playoffs. We have the Ontario Series Lacrosse heading towards their playoffs. We have the PLL that have come back from Worlds and now are going into the All-Star break. So we got a ton of things to take a look at. Just before we get rolling here, let's get the stuff out of the way for the network. And remember that all the shows are streamed live across Facebook, Twitter, YouTube, and also Twitch. And you can catch all the action on EOPsports.com. Remember to hit those subscribe, follow, and like buttons, and always share. Enjoy all of our affiliates as well. As you can see, we have plenty of shows going on. The Broad Street Bully Podcast, Philly Press Box Radio, Edge of Philly Sports Live, Birds IQ, Patterson Avenue Fanatics, Talking Philly Sports with Matty B, Devereaux Sports, The Painted Lions, Party on Broad, one of my favorites, a brand new show that's just been with us a little while, Steel Steps, Friday nights after SmackDown. An awesome show, and one of our co-hosts is leading in that show as well, Pat Bernard, and we'll see him later on tonight as well. He'll drop by. If you've missed a show, no worries. You can grab all the podcasts on all the major podcasting companies, which include Amazon, iTunes, Google Play, TuneIn, Stitcher, Spotify, and so much more. And also, you can check it out on YouTube at EOP Sports YouTube page. And if you're looking for our show in particular, All Across All the Time. Remember, you can stay up to date with all sports by visiting EOPsports.com with great articles from our huge staff of contributors. While you're there, please subscribe to our newsletter. If you're looking for a place to grab a drink, Dolan's is your place to go. 24 East Sellers Avenue, Ridley Park. If you want to have a look before you head there, go to dolansbar.com and have a look. But music, great times, great friends, great food, memorabilia, all kinds of things there. You'd want to go over to 24 East Sellers Avenue, Ridley Park. Sherry's Ticket Town, sherrystickets.com, is easy to use and has no hidden fees. The price you see is the price you pay. Pay less and play more with sherrystickets.com. Save even more by using the exclusive promo code EOP10. Don't pay hidden fees and save 10%. Why use any other ticket reseller and get those hard-to-come-by tickets to the big game? If you need more of a personal touch, give them a call at 610-494-5050 or visit their office at 1382 Naumans Creek Road, Suite 1, Garnet Valley, Pennsylvania. Sherry'sTickets.com also has great theater and concert tickets that are hard to get your hands on. Remember, don't overpay with the rest, save with the best, Sherry'sTickets.com, and save 10% using the promo code EOP10. PhillySportsTrips.com. Well, they finally got some stuff working, and they're looking at the San Diego trip to Petco Park for September 2nd to 6th. There's a number of things up on that site also to deal with Eagles stuff, Union stuff, and more Phillies trips as well. So you want to go over to PhillySportsTrips.com. If you wind up in any legal issues, workers' comp claims, motor vehicle accidents, personal injury law, criminal law, David R. Cherry and his group at the Cherry firm will be more than happy to give you a hand. Go to www.cherryinjurylaw.com or give them a call at 610-565-0300 and tell them the EOP boys sent you. Well, I've been pumping up this Fan Cup stuff for weeks and weeks now. It's finally upon us. It is next weekend, Fan Cup, the 20th anniversary of Fan Cup over in track in Oakville. And to show you how good we are, we have our own beer. Win or lose, we drink the booze. That is the motto. You can see this kind of style. There are lots of things to bid on in auctions. There are lots of other things to do. The Oakville Minor Lacrosse well there with barbecues for breakfast and for lunch. So you're going to want to be there at really, really good prices as well. If you want to take a look at some of the auction stuff that is online, you can go over to the Fan Cup Facebook page or onto the website at Fan Cup, I believe, 2023.com, and give it a look and have a look at some of the things up for auction. The auction closes the Saturday, the 22nd. I believe it's 5 p.m. All right, we got a couple of trades that we got to talk about just briefly, and we will get more into it as the weeks go along. But the big one here, at least in Toronto, is Mark Matthews is now a Toronto Rock. And over to Saskatchewan goes some really, really fine things. Zach Mans, for one, who's having an awesome summer. Adam J., an excellent defenseman. And, of course, the big one there, I think, is the 2023 first-round pick. Jamie doesn't like to have first-round picks. We always seem to be. No, Saskatchewan will have that one now. I believe it's 13th overall. So
yeah, I like that pick of Zach Mans too. I think that's a big one for the Rush.
I think he's got a howitzer, an absolute howitzer. So I think
he's almost a younger version of Mark Matthews in some ways. So
it's true, but he was having trouble cracking the lineup over here. So if he can get into all the games, he can really do some damage. And with Matthews, of course, well, you just replaced Dangerous Dan Dawson, with a bigger body and more of a quarterback. So one more trade to talk about, and that is, of course, again, dealing with Saskatchewan. Patrick Dodds and Cameron Greniak go over to the Rush, and Panther City gets the 5th overall pick and rights to Matt Beers. That's big also, eh, Shawn?
Yeah, especially Patrick Dodds. You probably picked up one of the best young players in the game, a former Rookie of the Year. Yeah, I mean, Derek Keenan made a splash here, didn't he? Picking up Mans and Dodds, like probably two of the top young talents. If they can keep them together, and they've played together with Austin Madronic out in BC as junior, along with, I believe, Clark Walter as well. So they're all familiar with each other. If you keep those guys together 4, 5, 6 years now,
then you have
that's going to be dangerous offense. That's going to be a dangerous offense. And if the Rush can seal up Church along with that.
Yeah. All right. We have one signing to talk about also. Riley Hutchcraft is sticking around with Rochester for 2 more years. I think that's a great signing. I think he's a great team guy and a heck of a goalie too. So anytime he's got to step in, he's been money. So that's great. Well, we are blessed. Now we have Michelle is just coming into the room. Let me just get my stuff here. There we go. Might as well have Michelle with the senior women's box championship trophy. But instead of a picture, why don't we bring her in? All right, Michelle.
Hi.
Welcome to the show. Let me just give a little brief thing. If I gave the whole thing, I'd have to say come back next week, and I'll keep finishing your biography. But just so everybody knows, it's the founder of Women's Box Lacrosse Global Network. Women's Box Lacrosse Working Group with World Lacrosse, Lacrosse Canada Gender Equity Committee, Team Canada Women's Field Lacrosse Assistant Coach in 93, Head Coach in 97, Team Canada World Field Player competing in 3 World Championships. You always neglect to say you won a bronze too.
Yes, we did. We actually finally got not that long ago.
Yeah. So it's a pleasure to have you on the show. Thank you for coming on with us. We have an awful lot to do with it.
Yes, we do. Yeah, and I'm happy to be back in studio with you. It's been a while.
It has been, but it's been great. It's been busy as all can be. You got your site up and running. Let's talk a little bit about that before we get into some of the other things. The Women's Box Lacrosse World Global Network.
Yeah, so the Global Network was something that Kath Kanadi and I co-founded. She's down in Adelaide in Australia, and she and I competed against each other internationally for a number of years. And we collaborated on this. It dovetailed after I finished with the Women's Box Lacrosse Working Group with World Lacrosse. During sort of the tail end of that journey as chair of that committee, I realized that more had to be done to elevate the profile of the women's box game. And certainly with 2024, the exciting news of there being the inaugural Women's World Championship coming up in Utica, New York. I hope I said that right. We just realized something more needed to happen to kind of light a fire under national governing bodies out there to support women that want to get in the game and play the game at the highest level. So Kath and I put our heads together last summer around this time, and we started scheming, and we eventually kind of got our ducks in a row, although now we're working kind of backwards from where we're at to get some things in place. But we rolled it out early in the new year. So in just a little over 6 months' time, we have a global network that consists of over 120 global network ambassadors in about 14 countries in the world. And we're working on becoming an affiliate of World Lacrosse, so stay tuned for that. We have a webmaster who's working hard for us over in England, and we should be rolling out our website in the next couple of weeks. But we're on Instagram, we're on Facebook, our numbers are climbing. So we are doing our best to spread the word that women's box lacrosse is growing here and across the pond and down in Australia and even in places like Hong Kong and Taiwan.
Yeah. Oh, that's awesome. All right, let's get to some of these things here because we have a lot of work to do.
Yes.
You know, so I'd love to say it's all sunshines and rainbows, but we brought this story up last week, and we were shaking our heads at the absolute stupidity of it all. Shall we go into this BC tournament and
let's have at it, Gary,
and talk about the Lena story? Maybe you could fill us in more so of what was all about, and this idea of being too good is something that still I can't get my head around.
Yeah. It's a shocking thing, and interestingly enough, Gary and John and Mike, hi. So I was out at the Senior Women's Championship final in Port Coquitlam just today in my hometown. The home team won, and I was talking to a lot of people that were in the stands. It was a pretty much full crowd watching the final game, and a lot of people have been hearing about the Lena story. And going back a couple weeks ago, there was a tournament hosted in Ridge Meadows by Ridge Meadows. It was a U13 tournament, just meant to be a fun tournament, kind of end close to the end of season. A lot of these girls live for tournaments, just like anybody. And so as it turns out, her team, Lena's team, she plays for New Westminster Sound Valley's the U13B team. And they weren't actually able to get into the tournament. They were on the wait list. And while that was going on and they were all kind of hoping, there was a team from Victoria, Esquimalt, and it's their first year in the league. All these young gals, and they were excited about coming because they made it into the tournament. So over, I guess, between the time they made it in and the tournament was rolling around, they had lost some players to injury and summer holidays, who knows what. So they made a bid to amalgamate with New Westminster in order to enter this Ridge Meadows minor tournament. And I kid you not, you've seen the documentation, Gary. They got every level of approval. All the boxes were ticked. All the players were signed, released, whatever needed to happen. And so, Swimalt's all excited. They're coming across the pond or across over to the mainland. They meet up with the New West group. The girls, young girls, are so excited. They're making new friends, and they get to the tournament, and it's all good until it isn't. So, do you want to pick it up from there, Gary?
Well, they beat the home squad. It was a 7-1 or 8-1, and Lena had 4 goals in that game. Now that would sound like, wow, she's a sniper, but the way I read it, 2 of the goals were passes that hit the goalie and went in, so they were kind of flukish shots. So to say that she was too good and she was way and above, and this is loading and stacking a team is ridiculous, to say the least, is ridiculous. Yeah. But the again, the home team lost by a big margin to this team that was thrown together, which everybody approved of.
Yeah.
So now they're sitting there going, well, we can't have this. Well, they're stacking their team. We have to take all their wins away from them. And we're going to go and we're going to bench this poor little 12-year-old because she's too good for this tournament and she shouldn't be there. Which means, by that logic, we'll never ever have seen the Gates. We would never have seen Tom Marichek. We would never have seen, in hockey, you'd never have seen Sidney Crosby or Mario Lemieux or anybody like that because they're just too good. We can't have them play because, too good. Can't have it.
Not fair.
Not fair. No, I always thought we gave MVP trophies to people that are good. But
It's interesting though. There was literally between that loss by the host team about 24 hours, and there was this backroom meeting between directors and commissioners, and they decided, that this team was going to be eliminated from being able to compete for the medal championships rounds, and that Lena was going to be disqualified basically because she was too good. And then you've got all the letters, the back and forth of emails, the petitions, the appeals, and that basically the tournament committee just said, that's it, we have final say, and she's not playing. And so here's this 12-year-old girl, thrilled beyond belief to just even be there playing. And she tell you what a trooper. Her parents, they tried to explain to her, but they just said, keep a stiff upper lip. She dressed for the game. She was on the bench, running the gate.
Yeah, we have a picture of that actually. I have a picture of that. She's the one in the pink helmet at the end, opening and closing the gate.
Yeah. So I mean, now there's the ultimate sportsmanship right there, sportswomanship, whatever you want to say. But the bottom line is she apparently played in a tournament the next weekend, and her mom said she was, just took the wind out of her sails, Gary, and she didn't play that well the next tournament. And I mean, seriously, a 12-year-old kid, you take the wind out of their sails, and what's the future hold for this young gal when this is the way we've treated her in a tournament that genuinely, for all intents and purposes, meant nothing except to the girls that were playing in it.
Right, and we're looking, as I was looking at the victim impact statement, and we've been put across, and Mom's done a great job of putting across what a trooper she is, but this one really it says how she really feels. Yes, it's not all sunshine and not, I was good and, we did this and I opened and closed the gate. She had a tough time doing all that. She had a tough time trying to look at her friends in the eyes and try not to have to get into detail of why she's not playing, because she didn't really know why she wasn't playing, and how to get into detail with the team that you won 2 games. You can do math too, and you know that you should be playing for a medal and you're not playing for a medal. Yeah. Ironically, the team that the home team, by taking away the wins, they were playing for a bronze medal. Yeah. Just merely a coincidence, I'm sure. But couldn't possibly.
Sorry, Gary. If I might too, you hit a lot too, where it's a 12-year-old girl. She's thinking now, what did I do wrong?
Yeah.
Yeah. Absolutely.
What did I do wrong?
And at a time when we've literally just gotten the official announcement from World Lacrosse only a few months back, there's going to be a world championship in the women's box game for the first time ever. There's been 5 men's worlds since 2003. And basically we're already, 5 goals behind in the game. Nonetheless, I can tell you, because I've been in arenas, I've talked to players, I've talked to parents, coaches, girls of every age are thrilled beyond belief that they finally have an opportunity to play this sport and possibly play for their country and play at the highest level. It's tangible, it's palatable. It's when just today in the arena in Port Coquitlam, I'm talking to some of these young gals, and they're so excited to have this opportunity to take their game to that next level. So yeah, Lena, I'm hoping she sticks with the game. Apparently she's a talented young player, and she deserves every opportunity that's available to her in the sport. And certainly any kind of policy or mandate they invoked to eliminate her from this tournament, we really need to rethink some of these things.
Well, yeah, for one, there should be a commissioner or something, or some convener to oversee what the people in the tournament are doing. They shouldn't be omnipotent and just make up their own rules as they go along, because right away, the deck is stacked against you if you're not from there. But the one thing that really pulled at my heartstrings was, again, reading in the impact statement thing here, and the one thing in bold print was when she was told that she was gonna go and play with the Victoria team, and the big thing she said is, "It's not about I want to win. Hey, great, we can go win. Now we can." No, Mom, I can't wait to teach them our plays.
Yeah. Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's really stacking a team with professionals, isn't it?
Well, and just, to have an opportunity to make some new friends in the game. And apparently this, the first time they're all, little girls, and they're all, giggling and everything in the dressing room together. First time they've met each other, some of them. And, but just apparently just a level of excitement that was just, you could feel it in the room, and they were just so happy to be there and be able to play together.
Yeah, it's a shame the way that this is all handled. And then the apology letters. I'll put up the BC one up first. This one I believe. The minor directorate would like to offer you a heartfelt apology for the unfortunate incident that occurred during the rainstorm lacrosse tournament June 11th, 8th to 11th, 2023. Sincerely regret any pain and suffering this may have caused you. See, I do believe Gord, and it's the sincerity of this one.
Mm-hmm.
However, when I put up this one, I know it's a little difficult to read. It's microscopic here because that's basically what the apology, in my eyes, is very, very slight, if anything. It doesn't really do much in the way of an apology, in my eyes.
No.
There has to be more than this. That comes
Well,
from
it's interesting too, Gary, is one of the things that in the email chain that went back and forth for 2 days, basically, in the final decision, according to the person who wrote the email, and I'm not going to point fingers or name names.
Yeah.
One certainly could, but said it was in the best interest of keeping the girls playing. So this was the methodology behind it all, was to keep the girls playing. They'd let them play out the tournament, but just not be eligible for any medals. Oh, and FYI, that kid over there, but she's not playing because she's too good. So I don't even know where to start with any of this, Gary. It just blows my mind. But it's not the first time we've heard of things like this.
That's the scary thing. That's what frightens me more is if it's a secluded event, great, we can go deal with the board. We can get rid of them. We can suspend them. We can move onward. We can put in places at the AGM and make sure that it doesn't happen. But it's not secluded. There's a lot of these things all over the place. That's what really frightens me. And how do we start weeding this out? Yeah.
Well, and since I've been doing the work with World Lacrosse, so that gig lasted from 2020 to 2022, and the whole idea was for myself and the working group to identify a competitive pathway forward for the women's game, and to identify barriers that exist in the women's game, and so we did that work and identified some key things that are holding women back in the game. And, really one of those things is just policies that don't fit for the group. They just, you've got thousands of boys and men playing all the way up to, professional level. But you've got this smaller group over here, and you're trying to apply a set of rules that they really just don't fit for the group that's just sort of emerging, just starting to take off. And so if we're going to develop that competitive pathway forward, we need to increase opportunities for girls and women to get into the game and stay in the game. Retention is a huge issue in the sport because that's what they need to get to that world level. So policy should reflect gender equity, and gender equity is, people get confused about what's equal and what's equitable. And, equal is getting everybody to the same start line. And equity is ensuring that everybody has whatever they need to get to the finish line. So we have the finish line now. We have 2024 and beyond, presumably 2028. So we need to start looking at policies that are actually barriers to girls participating in sport. As we move forward, we really need to rethink some of these things, and really, to coin a phrase, but we have to think outside the box. We have to look at what the needs are of girls and women playing the game. What do we need to do that might be different? What things might we need to do that actually are greater needs than
Right.
this group over here. So, and that's going to take some time and some work, but there's a lot of people willing to do that work. And the Women's Box Lacrosse Working Group, we're dedicated to that end, and we're just going to keep pushing these issues forward until associations and national governing bodies kind of give their heads a collective shake and go, oh, yeah, maybe we do need to look at this from a different angle.
Because we're failing on both sides at the grassroots level. We're failing on the boys' side and on the girls' side. I've had Mark Millen, Tom Marichek, and a number of other guys come on who stated simply, at the club level and above, yes, there's funding, and we have the coaching and we have everything else that goes along. Below that, where we're supposed to get these people from, we're failing utterly. We don't have fields, we don't have teams, we don't have places for them to play. We don't have anything, and something has to be done. I like the ideas that you're coming up with, but we need to really, really focus in quickly. Otherwise, we're going to have nobody to draw from to go up to those elite levels.
Yeah. Well, with the global network, what we're trying to do is, create a network of people everywhere that are working together. And just from my perspective, this is my opinion. You can tell me I'm crazy, but I feel like on the men's side, the game is siloed out. Everybody's fighting for territory, and leagues are fighting against leagues. And I would like to think on the women's side that we approach the game a little bit different, and we try to do things as a collective. And so we have ambassadors, like I said, in about 14 countries in the world, and they're trying to work with national governing bodies. They're trying to work with their member associations. They're offering assistance. Like I've said to World Lacrosse and Lacrosse Canada and others, these global ambassadors are your boots on the ground. These are, and if you saw the list of some of the people that are our global ambassadors, Megan Kinna, superstar with Team Canada. We've got Megan Doughty down in the States. Kath Connaught is the co-founder and former national level player and coach. I mean, it's like the who's who in the lacrosse world, both field and box.
Right.
And these people are all, ready to roll up their sleeves and do the work. And it's just a matter of associations inviting women into that space, whether it's, creating more opportunities for players, for women in coaching, for women as officials in the game, on boards that administer, rules and policies. All those areas, those spaces need to be made more available and more welcoming for women because they're ready to do the work. They're ready to jump in.
Well, yeah, we even saw that at the Worlds. We had in a playoff game that was all female officials. It's fantastic. It's about time that they get more of a chance to do more of these games and more of these upper games to be seen, because they're fantastic. They're if you're talking about effort, watching them live when I was in San Diego and have them run by me continually, they're quicker than half the teams.
Yeah.
So to watch them running up and down the sidelines and being there for about, I would say 97% of the calls.
Yeah.
I'd say it's amazing just to watch that. So. All right, so we moved to our next thing, and we were talking about this, and this one also had me scratch my head because I really never gave it much thought. Taylor and her brother Dryden, twins. Dryden's afforded all these opportunities being male, right from the word go, an email package with a gazillion things that you can play here, and this is available in this tournament, and and she gets nothing because there's not even a team in her area.
Yeah,
and maybe can jump on with a boys team. And this blows my mind.
Yeah, I call it the tale of twins, tale of two twins. So you've got, and I tell this story because if ever there was a case that just highlighted the disparity between the opportunities for a boy and an opportunity for a girl in the sport, you've got twins. And so you have Taylor comes into the game, and initially there's no girls team for her to play on. You can play for the boys. And I talk about this competitive pathway forward. And if you were to look at the trajectory of his competitive, like the way forward in the game can go all the way to, world championships, professional. Mm-hmm. I mean, I don't know how great Dryden is. He sounds like a decent player. And then you look at Taylor and, 1 year she'll play for a boys team, and then there's no team, and then it's there's.
Well, let me try and put this up. I have it here.
Yeah, it's an interesting. I asked Mama Morel to put a timeline, just a comparative timeline together, and it's really interesting to see the disparity between her accessibility to the sport and her brothers.
Let's see if I can get this to work for myself here.
Yeah, there you go.
All righty. Now, I'm new at this sharing thing too, so I'm gonna try and get it to move.
You hit that box, you might be able to expand that out. The box at the top there should be able to expand it out a bit.
All right, let's see. Here we go. There we are. At least I can get it to move.
Yeah. Yeah.
All righty. So, yeah, just looking at the trajectories, and of course, everything in red is where she's not able to do anything.
Yeah. Yeah. So Dryden's on the left, Taylor's on the right, and you can just see the opportunities that her brother had, and right up to now where they're both junior age players, and it's just so interesting now that Taylor is junior age. Her brother, coincidentally, the same age. So he's got all these opportunities as a junior, which now no longer is under the minor directorate, and there's the combine, and he can be drafted. And while Taylor remains, even though she's junior age, is still under the minor directorate. So still subject to all the rules and regulations of a minor age player, which includes being basically her future is controlled by the association. If
Right.
there's no team in your community, even though maybe the community next door has a team that you could go play for, the association doesn't allow you to make those decisions, or your parents to even suggest it. The association tells you where you have to play. And I mean, I understand on the men's side, the boys' side, we don't want, rogue elements going out there, great players, I can't play for this team, I want to play for these guys, and and having there be an unfair advantage. But when there's generally no girls' team to play on, and your best friend plays in the community next door, and you want to go play there, and the association says to you, well, actually, we want you to play on this team that's about a 2-hour drive away from your place in rush hour traffic. So she just quit playing. She's coaching this year. She just said, forget it. So here we have a 17-year-old player who really wants to have a future in a game. And just because of policies and the way things are, she's precluded from playing. And, will she come back to the game? I don't know. I hope she does, because she's a good little player, and she deserves the same opportunities that her brother is getting in the game. And right now, it's just not working that way.
Yeah. And, the other thing, of course, is even for universities to put together packages. There's all kinds of video and all kinds of things in full arenas for Dryden.
Yeah.
For Taylor, first of all, they're not very well attended. Number two, they're not very well funded. And you're lucky if you're going to get any footage whatsoever to put together a package to even be accepted down the road in some other place. So if she has any hope of going to NCAA, they're going to have to take her from her word. That's not going to happen.
Yeah. Yeah, and it's frustrating. It's frustrating for parents, and I've certainly talked to a lot of parents where, they see the inequities, but there is another sort of dark side to all of this, guys. And what it is, if you complain too loudly, guess what? I talked to one parent who, her and her husband, they were told that they weren't allowed to show up to any arenas where the association was sanctioning the event. So you're not invited anymore because you're too vocal. They've blacklisted players, they've blacklisted coaches, some of these associations, for basically complaining about the inequities.
Right.
So you brought
something else up too with the just with the OLA and BCLA and the rest of these things, is that you can try and go to to Canada Lacrosse, and they're busy saying, well, it's provincial.
Yeah.
Well, if you're leaving it them to be omnipotent, they've dropped the ball many times already. So who is there finally to pick this thing up and go forward? That's the question. We have Paul St. John, who's doing a great job because he's bypassed all these boards and all these directorates with the Arena Lacrosse League and the women's side, both West and East.
Yeah, and Paul St. John, what a great guy. So he flew out here a couple of Octobers ago, and he was starting up, of course, the Arena Lacrosse League out of the Langley Event Center. And he wanted to meet up to see if there was the likelihood of getting a women's side going. So I met up with Paul, and we had a little discussion. And at the end of it, he basically said, if you can have enough, I think the magic number was 60 or 65 names down on paper. It was October, and he said by mid-November, we'll roll out a women's side to this league. So I said, all right, well, just leave that with me. And so we crafted a letter of intent, myself and the president of the women's league here, Savannah Smith, who's works tirelessly on the women's side of the game. And she's actually at the North American, the Indigenous Games right now with Team BC. So hello, Savannah. Anyway, we petitioned to get this thing going. We got a letter of intent crafted up, and within less than long and short of it is we started the first season. It was abbreviated, but nonetheless, 4 teams, women and players from the age of 16 and 17 with consent, all the way up to 100 if you wanted to play. Came out of the woodwork, guys. It was just incredible. We had moms and daughters playing together. We had, aunties and nieces and girlfriends and you name it. To this day, second season, we grew by 20%. The LL grew by 20%. We now have 6 teams. We're on track to grow again, but I was just talking to Savannah's mom today, who's very involved in lacrosse as well. And she said only one small thing is the league will outgrow the arena time that's available to them at the Langley Event Center. So we're not sure how to navigate that, but all I can tell you is, it's that old adage of build it and they will come. And we had players flying in from San Diego to play in the winter Arena Lacrosse League. We have players coming from the island by the boatload and the interior BC. And so, if ever you think for a second that girls do not want to play this game, I'm going to just say, sorry, they definitely do. And they'll seize any opportunity possible. And they are. So it's something that's just, we need to start looking at how we can be more inclusive in the sport and create more equitable opportunities because the women want to play.
Absolutely, and the proof's in the pudding. By growing 20%, that's crazy numbers that go forward. We've always talked about how influential and how important the Arena Lacrosse League has been for men.
Yeah.
But for women, I think it's a lifeline, really, to bypass all the silliness and just go and play, which is all that most want to do.
Yeah. All
right, let's move over to Avalon's story from Regina, Shawn.
Yep, familiar with this league.
Queen City Minor Law, only female player in the A Division Regina Barracudas. So when you're alone, what happens? You sit at home. So how do we solve this? Michelle,
Okay, go ahead. I thought, Shawn, you were going to jump in.
Well, I was just going to say, just being familiar with that league, I know it's all just a boys' league, right? So if you're a female, you've got to compete with those boys, and they don't necessarily, if you're going to those tryouts, they don't necessarily have to take girls. It's not in their mandate to do so. It's an unfortunate situation.
And I don't, and this wasn't meant to be a negative story at all. Quite the contrary, the parents said, hey, our daughter's playing this league. She's getting every opportunity. There aren't girls teams for her to play on, and her coaches have been very fair with her. And I understand she is quite a competent goaltender, and she's making her own way, So it's not like anybody's giving her preferential treatment. But I guess if I pull back to the bigger picture here, and this is a question I had for Ravlin's mom, is if she's been playing blocks lacrosse for, I think it's 7 or 8 years now, like why are there not girls teams? Why in all this time is there no growth on the girls side of the game? And furthermore, like, you have to look at very realistic factors here. Like Avalyn, does she sit in the dressing room with her team before the game and, kibitz and talk about, what's going to happen in the game? Yeah. Does she get to hang out with the team afterwards? And no, because she's a girl and she's on a boys team. And so she gets her own little room, to change and before and after the game. And, these are the things that, again, we need to look at. Like little girls, they need to be playing with other little girls, if at all possible. They need to see people behind the bench that look like them. They need to see people with the stripes on that look like them. This is all really important when it comes to just sort of the psychosocial side of the sport.
Right.
And, you don't hear too many boys that are playing on girls' teams because there isn't any boys' team that year. So I think we just really need to look at things through what they call the gender lens. And if the shoe were on the other foot, would this be acceptable?
Right. Yeah. Right. And again, you're looking at the social aspect, of course, but even when it comes down to playing, when strategy is being talked about in the dressing room and she's in another room, how can she feel part of this group if she just comes in and then leaves again and has nothing to do with anybody? Yeah. Could probably not even know everybody's name by the end of a year.
Yeah.
Which is sad. That just doesn't make any sense whatsoever. Yeah. All right. So we're talking about this. We're talking about barriers and things like that. What are we doing to smash down some of these barriers, and what can we do to start smashing down some of these barriers?
Did you get that document I sent you earlier? I just thought I would just put all the answers down on a piece of paper and send it your way just to make life easier. But yeah, I mean, there's a lot of strategies, and I will say, there's an organization called Canadian Women in Sport, and if you go to the site, they have some incredible research that they've done, and they have a lot of resources available. And those resources have been recommended to member associations everywhere that are struggling with how to implement gender equity policies. Because like I said at the start, there's confusion between equal and equitable. They're two very different things. So, I described it at a awards event that I went to a while ago. If you have, let's say you have 4 people and they all need a bike. So you got, a big 6'5" guy and he needs a bike, and somebody my size needs a bike, and the little kid, needs a bike, and the person who needs an adaptive piece of equipment needs a bike. Well, if you give every one of those people a bike built for the 6'5" guy, guess what? It's not going to work. And what you really need to do is you need to give the 6'5" guy a bike that's the frame size to fit him, and I need a frame size to fit me. And the kid needs a trike, not a pedal bike, and the person in a wheelchair needs something completely different. So when you're looking at women in the sport, there's needs on the women's side of the game that need to be addressed, that we need to look at. There's some different things to consider when it comes to increasing participation in the sport. So it starts with at least understanding what gender equity really means. And so I highly recommend, and I've recommended it to national governing bodies out there, go to Canadian Women in Sport, look at some of the resources they have available. They have something called the Gender Equity Playbook, and it's brilliant. It's all evidence-based, based on research that organization has done. And it's there's other helpful resources out there if associations are struggling with figuring out how to devise policies that are equitable and how to implement them.
Just to get 30 to 40% of female representation on the boards is a huge thing right there. Because then right away, it can't just be a male governed rules and just shut everything else out. That alone would be huge if we could do that.
Yeah.
A couple of comments that have come in for you. Renee Susie. Hi, Michelle. It's Renee. I'll be happy to talk about how her coaches and teammates do include her, and can definitely talk about how coaches can do that for female players on male teams.
Yeah.
And Lisa Murrah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Thank you for telling my kid's story. So yeah. So we're being heard.
Yes.
But yeah, for the gender equity, I have it up here right now. Comprehensive family care policies that address child care. There's a number of things here, harassment, everything else that are all implemented in this book per se. And if we can actually go through it bit by bit by bit, then I think we're onto something.
Yeah.
But I honestly think that 30 to 40% of, at least for female representation on the boards, is a must, because otherwise nothing's going to get done.
Well, there's one other committee that I'm on, Gary. So I'm on the board of directors with the Canadian Lacrosse Hall of Fame.
Mm-hmm.
And that board, when I first became a member of the board, I think there were 2 women on the board, and bless Hutch, David Soul, and Matt Black and others, working hard, but mostly a lot of older white guys. Hate to say it, guys, but it was the makeup of the group. Mm-hmm. And since I've been on the committee or on the board of directors, I think we're up to 5 now. And the thing with that is, on boards, if you're not of that gender, you don't really see things through that gendered lens, and you don't see your blind spots until you have half of your board going, wait a minute. Did you think of looking at it this way? And so, even when it comes to the Canadian Lacrosse Hall of Fame, I mean, the numbers of men in the Hall of Fame are in Canada are reaching close to 400 now, and we have exactly 6.
3? Oh, you're 6 now?
No, we doubled our numbers last year. We Troyan Santos, Trish Nicholson, former teammate of mine, Team Canada. I coached Troyan on Team Canada. Storied history in the game, incredible career. And Joanne Stanga in Ontario is an incredible builder in the game. So we doubled our numbers last year. We're up to 6. But again, the criteria used to determine who got into the Hall of Fame were based on participation in things like the Mann Cup, the Mini Cup, the Peterborough Cup, this cup, none of which women could even play in. Right. And nobody's career outside of the country was ever considered. So you have somebody like a Troyan who went on to this incredible career in the States at university, played for Canada. I always said if I could have a dozen Troyans on a team, just give me a team of Troyans. She was that kind of player. She continues to be involved in the game. I hope to see her on the coaching staff for Team Canada for 2024. We'll see what happens with that. But I mean, so you can see how, things can be very skewed when you're only looking at it through one lens, and it's not the gender lens.
Right. Susan Batchelder says one unfair policy is not allowing a junior player to play in both male and female division when she's been drafted to both. On a female team, the player gets a female companionship. So.
Yeah, fair enough. And her daughter, they're out in the Maritimes, and her daughter wants to try out for Team Canada, and there's just not enough opportunities for her to participate to get her game up to a certain level. So, she has to seek. A lot of girls have to seek free agent opportunities, and this is pretty common on the girls' side of the game. And I think as long as that's the case, where some players just don't have a team to play for, that associations need to make allowances for girls to, play on other teams, go to tournaments. They may not be sanctioned tournaments, but let them go and play and get some experience under their belt. If that's what exists for them in absence of formal leagues or teams to play on, associations really need to start thinking about these opportunities for girls and stop using policy, hiding behind policy to prevent girls from participating.
Right. And one of the things you sent me, the Sue Palace report, and one of the things she had listed as a problem was the growth of female box lacrosse has stagnated. players are leaving the sport for reasons that are not being addressed in the current organizational configuration. Insufficient value is given to box lacrosse for girls, and as a result, players remain unaware of the opportunities box lacrosse affords them, including the Women's Major Series Lacrosse League, the premier women's box lacrosse league in the world, the proposed women's World Women's Box Lacrosse Championships, and the skills that box lacrosse bring to the field game, especially the Olympic sixes style.
Mhm.
The current organization of female box lacrosse in Ontario is counterintuitive to the principles of lacrosse for life. The challenge is ensuing that we have a solid pathway for players to enter the sport and develop to their maximum potential.
Yeah.
Lacrosse for Life overview. So yeah, if we can't get past that, now she's leaving, and hopefully with the new commissioners coming in, that
Yeah.
we're going to be able to work the new structure in there. But again, if it doesn't have more people in there, more females in there,
Yeah.
we're going to have a really tough time with the old boys club to try and maneuver things, because one against a bunch doesn't do a whole lot.
Yeah. And on that note, Gary, I'm going to, I just want to say right off the bat, like there's tons of guys out there that have been helping us with elevating the profile of the women's game. There's private operators like the Kevin Crawleys with Fusion, Shaden Santos with US Box, Scott Joyner back in Baltimore helped us big time with a small U17 tournament we ran at the World Championships in Baltimore last year. We actually have, as part of the global network, a team of, we call them our male ambassador allies. And there's some good guys there. You guys, all of you, you're my hero, Gary. You're so supportive to do something like this, just to give me the opportunity to highlight some of these stories. These things are really important, and the more we can get people on board with just looking at the game more from a global perspective, and just recognizing that, if we grow the game on the women's side, we grow the game for everybody. More participation, more resources, more women coming into other elements of the game, because it's a space for everybody.
Yep. Goes to that saying we've been hearing: if you can play, you can play.
Yeah.
Well, we need to step up with some of the policies and some of the management at higher level positions on committees and so forth, to make sure that mantra is actually being preached, or being practiced, not just preached.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
I was just saying, going back a little bit. Oh, sorry. I was just going to say, too, just kind of looking at hockey a little bit as an example. Once you saw them starting to have girls' leagues, what happened to women's hockey? It blew up. Yeah. It became bigger and bigger and bigger. And it would be nice one day if we could get lacrosse to that point as well.
Yeah, I was talking to Oliver Marty some time ago, and I like the fact that, as a new franchise back then, when I was talking to him, and they were running clinics for boys and girls to get them into the game. And, I commented on the fact that, it was so great of him to ensure that their organization was so supportive of the girls' side of the game as well. And he basically said, I'm a businessman, and why would I leave half my money on the table? So really, and you get people out there that are offended by these private operators that are making money off of lacrosse. Well, for starters, not many of them are making a lot of money. They're not millionaires. But the bottom line is, I always say the future of the game is female, because the market on the men's side, it's grown so big, but how much further can it go? Whereas on the women's side, if we just kind of fan the flames of the excitement that's happening out there right now, wham, our numbers go through the roof. And I go back to the ALL as an example. We opened the door to that opportunity, and literally, I think we had over 200 women signed for that league by the end of the last season, and the numbers just keep growing. And that's women buying equipment. That's women paying registration fees. That's women bringing their kids out and teaching the game to them. The game is just going to grow by, really looking at it through that gender equity lens and saying, what things can we do not to prevent participation, but to elevate the profile of the game, increase participation. Let's get everybody in the game.
Mm-hmm. All right, so that brings us to what's happening in the big world of women's lacrosse now, especially with 2024 and the World Championships.
Yeah. Well, I actually was just communicating earlier with Scott Neese, of course, runs the Lax Night tournament. He's on the organizing committee for 2024. And of course, now they're having a full women's division at the Lax Night this September, which I'll tell you a little funny backstory. He's probably going to hate me for saying this, but I contacted him last summer when I saw the social for the tournament, and there was no women's division. And so I got on the blower with Scott and said, hello, here's who I am. And what's the deal? How come there's no women's division? And he says to me, well, we were thinking of having a women's division next year. And I said, well, what about this year? And so in about, 8 to 10 weeks, I got, talking to Amber Hill, who was part of the Women's Box Lacrosse Working Group, down on the East Coast. I talked to another global ambassador up in Ontario. They got a bunch of free agents together. They blasted over to the Lax Night tournament in Utica. And apparently it was a hugely successful event, such that they're having a full women's division this year, and they're expecting quite a draw from, the international side of things. So it's exciting. What's even more exciting is for 2024, and I'll just say this flat out, if you would have asked World Lacrosse, even going back a couple of years ago, how many teams were genuinely interested in committing to a world tournament? Maybe 5, 6 if we're lucky. Well, we're up to 10 to 12 at this point in time. A lot of those teams are formally committed to the world tournament, and if not, just down on paper, but definitely all the usual suspects. We're going to have Canada, the USA. USA, I think, has already had their second training camp, and, they're good to go. They're going to want to win this thing. Haudenosaunee, we've got Germany. We've got Hong Kong, for crying out loud. I had a chance to talk to the head coach of the Hong Kong team at the She-Box tournament in Prague this year. I don't know where they're getting all their money from, but well, actually I do. And so they've got somebody underwriting the whole program. And good Lord, they're getting their own equipment made in mainland China, women's specific equipment.
Wow.
Who knew? Hong Kong, maybe Taiwan, Australia. It's
Japan is anything like the men, and watching their program explode there when they start getting the women in there. Oh my God, that's going to take off like wildfire.
Yeah.
So the future is huge and bright with all that. That's really, really up. I can't wait, because I look forward to going through for that week or two over in Utica.
Absolutely.
Should be an exciting time on both sides. Now I get to watch twice as much, which is great. All right, so bringing us back into everything, what can we do as outside people to help you and the Global Foundation?
Well, I think just first and foremost, opportunities like this, Gary, just to spread the word, to open people's eyes a little bit, to open the door to conversations, associations, member associations, national governing bodies, looking at their gender equity policies and making things actionable. Like, you can't just have your policy be words on paper. You actually have to follow through and execute some of these policies. So, and again, you sometimes, like in women's box, if you look at how far back women's box is from the start line, get into the old, what's the difference between equal and equitable? Right. We're so far back from the start line. So we might need, in fact, we will need quite a push, extra resources, a lot of things to just get to the start line, let alone the finish line. So, we need associations to step up. We need more coverage. We need better arena times. We need to think of, equipment's one of the biggest barriers in the game. And well, it's a barrier for a lot of men's programs out there as well in starting countries, developing countries. Good Lord, how many people out there have deep pockets and put money into lacrosse, at a global level? Why can we not find at least one manufacturer who's going to say, okay, let's pony up, let's get equipment made that actually fits women? Because I know a lot of parents, they put their little girls into this sport, and I have to tell you, little girls are so excited to go out there and just rock them, sock them. They think it's the greatest thing ever. Parents are like my mother when I played box, because she couldn't even move. Thought I was getting killed. And of course, if you equip them properly, everybody's safe out there as long as the rules are being called the way they're supposed to be called. But even up at the Chi Box tournament, I was, because they're open air venues, I was hanging around with teams and I was watching them get kitted up for games. And the duct tape's coming out and they're taping a pad here and cinching this up there. And of course, there's women have these things called, breasts, and the standard shoulder pads do not cover much. And, rib pads are ill-fitting. Women are so much more prone to injury wearing equipment that just doesn't even fit them. So, right. Yeah, there's a lot of things that we could do. But yeah, the starting point is let's look at some of the policies that are preventing girls from participating in the sport. And let's just get behind women's box, because we need more help right at this stage than other groups.
Well, we'll do our best that we can to try and get the word out for you. That's a for sure. I really want to thank you for coming on and really enlightening us on a lot of things that just wouldn't get told if you weren't here to tell us. Because again, without having people like you who are knee deep in it, and all the other things that go along with it, we really wouldn't have an opportunity to help you grow this. So I'm really looking forward to having you come back on in a little while and give us an update on where we are from here and where we can go from there. And if we can do this as a semi-regular thing anyways, that we can keep getting the word out and getting as many people as we can on board to try and grow this thing and grow it correctly.
Yeah. Well, I'll just tell a quick story, and I've told this a few times, but people ask me what motivates me. I'm retired, and I suppose I could just be going out, riding my bike or paddleboarding every day. But I'm working for every little girl out there who just really wants to play this game, just absolutely loves the sport of box lacrosse. And there was one little girl in particular I met a while ago. It was during COVID. When they had the protocols, you had to be. Kids had to show up in their full uniform, helmets included, before you got let into the arena. So I'm standing at the Burnaby 8 rinks facility. Kevin Crowley's running, I think, like a U8 or 9 clinic for girls. And there's this little girl, and she's standing there in all of her goalie equipment. Of course, she's about up to my chin, and I'm not very tall, so she looks like this massive little weeble. So I'm chatting with this kid, and I meet her mom, and I said, so how long you been playing box lacrosse? And she says, oh, since I was 5. And she's, 8 or 9. So I said, well, half your life. And she said, yeah. I said, box or field? She says, both, but I really do prefer box. And I said to her, so Kira, what's your goal in the game? What do you aspire to? And she says, I want to play professionally, and I want to play in the NLL. And I thought, you know what, kid? If I have anything to do with it, you're going to play in a professional women's league when you're old enough to play, and or I'm going to die trying. So, why do I get so excited about this? It's these little kids that just want to play this game. Yeah. They love it so much, and they want to have, that goal to work towards. So playing for their country, playing professionally, these are things that these kids, they're not little China dolls and sugar and spice and everything nice. They want to get out there. They want to play the same rules. They want to have the same opportunities as their brothers. So that's who I'm working for every day. It doesn't pay anything, but I don't care. I'm just going to keep doing it.
That's awesome. And then they say, Lisa Morales talking about you're their champion. I like Amanda's comment there. If they don't give you a seat at the table, flip the table.
Excellent.
Absolutely
Yeah,
great
I love
conversation.
that.
And
Thanks,
of course,
Amanda.
Catherine is talking about the taping. I went through dozens of rolls of tape for the Aussie Nationals.
Yeah.
Just to put an exclamation point to your point.
Hey,
So,
I want to get a little plug in for Amanda Mastera. She did our logo design. Bless her heart. She used to work with World Lacrosse brand and communication, and she just because she liked us, I guess, she did a ton of work to produce our logo. Just literally handed over all the font material and the hex codes and everything, and said, "Have at it." So thank you, Amanda, and that's what we need. We need people to step forward and help us out. You know, we don't have any money, so if anybody wants to sponsor the Global Network, let me know.
Awesome. So we will have you back in a couple of months to give us a little bit of an update on what's going on. Perfect. Thank you so much for taking the time with us, Michelle. I really appreciate it, and we'll be talking really soon. All right. That was Michelle Bowyer, who, once again, Women's Box Lacrosse Global Network co-founder, Women's Box Lacrosse Working Group with World Lacrosse, Lacrosse Canada Gender Equity Committee, Team Canada World Field Lacrosse Assistant Coach in 93, Head Coach in 97, Team Canada World Field Player competing in 3 World Championships, and Canadian Lacrosse Hall of Famer from the player category in 2020. It's amazing all the work that she does and has done for women's lacrosse from her playing days all the way on up to the present time. And I look forward to all of us working alongside with her to help build what should have already been built, honestly. And it's time to undo some of the other doings, and let's get this thing moving forward, because there's a lot of females, a lot of young girls who are just itching to get going. And it's time to break down these barriers and some of these boards. And like I said, I keep coming back to that same point, guys, of the 30 to 40% of females on the board. But yeah, I think that should be a minimum.
Yeah.
And right away, I would think that probably 30 to 40% of the problems would just evaporate right there, because you'd have somebody with some reason talking and somebody who's with some gumption is going to fight.
Yep.
When you have one person going up against 20 people on a board, that's very easily drowned out.
Yeah, I was going to say, on the positive side, I mean, this past year, the Canada Games, they had girls box lacrosse for the first time. It's because of people like Michelle who just keep fighting and keep fighting.
Thank you, Renee. Thank you for watching.
Yeah, thanks, Renee.
Thank you.
And Eduardo, of course. It's been fantastic. Really, really appreciate everything that's gone on in the show so far. I'm going to bring in Pat. Hi, Pat.
What's up? What's up, guys? What's going on?
How you doing, brother?
Hey, listen, man. First of all, Michelle Bowyer, I love the dream, love the passion. You keep striving on it. I believe it's going to get to where you want it to be with women lacrosse. I love the passion. I love listening to the story, and yeah, there should be more women lacrosse. Matter of fact, you know me, I don't care as long as it represents Philly. I'll represent you. So if there's a women lacrosse team, I'm all for it. I'll get it. Whatever she wants to name the Philly squad, I'll rock it. You know what I mean? I wear this thing on my sleeve. So yeah, but to what you guys brought me in for, you guys want to hear me talk about my norm. But yeah, I want to talk to you guys a little bit about some PLL action from this past weekend and Chromes. And Chromes just continue to find themselves the way to lose, and the Cannons are rolling high right now. Well,
all you can do is feel the boom, can't you, Pat?
Yeah,
feel the boom.
Hey, listen, that might be a new Still Step slogan right there. I like it.
It's not bad. It's not bad. But you know what? I watched that game, and feel the boom is what you felt, because man, the Cannons are rolling.
Yeah, well, listen, Cannons are rolling, but I mean, do I really want to give them too much credit when you're beating up on the two lowest teams in the league? I mean, you're beating up 2 bottom feeders right now. I mean, you play the Chrome, then you play Atlantis, and then you go back to playing the Chrome. I mean, That's a day at the beach for me. So
Easy on
again,
my Atlas, man. Easy on my Atlas.
sorry. When we put 19 to 12
You're
on
doing
the
a
Atlas,
cage match if you're not careful, man. Easy on my
whoa! We don't want that action. But anyways, I got to see a great game out of the Cannons. Cannons obviously running great creative plays. I mean, run the old flea flicker, and if you want to use football terms for all your football heads out there, first play, open and drive, flea flicker kind of move. Matt Cavan finds it back in the net. Matt Campbell, a Villanova product, again finds it back in that. For you, Mike and Muffler Mike, I'm going to put you push R2. That man was spinning all over that field. He was juicing his opponents out. It was just you just push R2, and that man was spinning. And again, those guys really played well as a team. Grant, you see, they are the top assist team in the league. And you see, I mean, good ball movement. They find you give them that little bit of time, they create space, and when they do that, man, they're gonna make you pay for it. And that kid, Ashton Nolte, another big body out there. He knows how to. He was talking about bulldozing. When he's low in the paint, he's low in that box. He'll bulldoze and he'll make you pay the piper. Again, as one of the commentators allude to, he's Magic Johnson. No, he's Shaq. That dude was dunking on people, no problem. He was bullying people in the box down there. And then, for the saving grace though for the Chrome is they do got a superstar and Sam Henley. That kid can play. That kid, 6'5", 240 pounds of pure muscle, and you see it. I mean, he was again making some drives, making some strides, finding the open shots, taking full advantage of it. Really did a phenomenal job. So I liked what I saw out of that. So, but that would be their only saving grace. Again, another product of the local area here in Philly of Penn University of the Quakers. So I got to see some local product go at it. I was really pumped up to see that. But to me, like I said, you guys would know better than me. Hell, will these guys get drafted come NLL time?
Well, a good chunk of them already have been drafted.
Yeah. Oh, they have. Okay.
But some are strictly field guys, though. Some, it's one thing for box guys to go out and have more room to go and maneuver. To have field guys who are used to field and have them come into box. Well, the Philadelphia Wings tried that in the mid 2000s, and it didn't work out so well. They had trouble adjusting to tight situations and a lot of hitting, whereas they can maneuver and use their footwork on the field. So it's getting better because there's more U.S. box players is taking over in there and really, really pumped it out. So the NCAA guys, a lot of them have come up from Canada now as well. So, the disparaging thing used to be it was U.S. for field, Canada for box. Now we're kind of in the middle here. We're kind of down the grade.
Integrating and it's definitely making strides. And I think you see it, Pat, definitely in Philly too, just with the Wings, with guys like Matt Rambo, Blaze Reardon, Isaiah Davis Allen, who all play, both box and field, and play them both capably. That there are some guys you've probably heard us talk about, who, certainly we ponder, whether they could transition to the box game. Guys like Michael Sowers for Water Dogs, who, the Albany Firewolves own his rights. They also own the rights to Grant Ament of the Archers, who, is a guy who definitely can, all you need to do is look at highlight reels of some of his assists to know that, he can definitely play and fit passes into tight spaces and would thrive in box. You also see guys like, Albany's basically, has a bunch of Water Dogs players already in Charlie Kitchen, Ethan Walker, Kieran McArdle. You have, a bunch of the guys on Chaos who are Buffalo Bandits players, Ian Smith, Ian McKay, Josh Byrne, Chris Cloutier. You see Mac O'Keefe plays for the Seals. So there is Trey LeClaire also, for Archers. Connor Fields, of course. So there's a decent amount.
Schreiber,
and I think I feel like what's going to happen maybe is, I don't think it's at a point where there's going to be this field invasion, if you will.
Right.
Where the NLL is suddenly going to get taken over by field players or guys who are playing, both box and field. I think there's still benefits to both. It's right now I think we're in kind of this, like Gary said, it's a bit of a weird transition where you have some guys who have the ability to play both, who maybe sometimes it's just a matter of decision.
Right.
We've seen guys who the one I can think of is Kevin Buchanan, who is retired now, but he was with New England Black Wolves when they were there in the NLL, and near the end of their tenure in New England, he had a pretty serious knee injury, and what he ended up doing was, I believe, retiring from. I might have this. Correct me, guys, if I have this the other way around. I believe he retired from box so he could get an extra year of field, but it might have been the other way around. It might have been, hey, I retired from
John
field
Grant,
so that I
John
could
Grant
get an extra year of
John
box.
Grant Jr. You also have Brody Merrill, who's retired from field now, but still playing box.
Yeah.
So, but they're coming to the ends of their careers and can't do it all anyways, and have families, and you don't want to be on the road 11 and a half months of the year. So
yeah, as seen by
Lacrosse,
Lyle
the only one that
Thompson,
goes year round entirely.
and when we saw that with Lyle Thompson opting not to play for Cannons and instead play for Six Nations in major series this year, just so he could have, so he could have a better balance, work life, if you will, and spend more time with his family, and still be able to play and play at a high level as we're seeing in Six Nations right now. So
absolutely.
He plays high level all the way around. I mean, he was when I got my first game I got to cover. My eyes were not so much on the wings; we're so much on Lyle Thomas. Get to see what this dude is all about.
Yeah.
All right, let's move ourselves over to the Water Dogs Whip Snakes, which was the first game on Friday night.
Yeah, so Water Dogs get a 16-13 win. Really, I don't know that I want to say it was in doubt or not. But a big run in the fourth quarter. 6 points on 5 goals, kind of put the game out of reach for the Whip Snakes. Some of the guys I mentioned who play both box and field, McArdle 2 and 5. Jack Hanna for the Las Vegas Desert Dogs. He had 3 goals plus a 2-point goal and an assist. Ethan Walker 2 and 2. Michael Sowers 2 goals and an assist. A guy we will be seeing very soon in the NLL, Thomas McConvey, pair of goals. He'll be playing with Rochester in the winter.
First round pick last year.
Yeah, for the Whips, most of the offense was Zed Williams. He had 5 goals, 2 assists. Tucker Dordovic, a hat trick. Mike Chanenchuk, 2 and 1. Again, one of the biggest acquisitions in the offseason, Will Manny, held to just 1 goal. So that's a little concerning for Whip Snakes. You could almost have our "What's Wrong With" segment focus on Whip Snakes now for PLL, and that could be one of the "What's Wrong With" is just they need to get Will Manny going.
Yeah.
He's kind of up and down this year, so and that's not what we're used to seeing from Will Manny for sure.
No, not at all.
Well, that's the thing. Looking at the line here, it looked like the Whip Snakes just kind of let this one slip out of their hands because they were up 6-5 at the half.
Yeah.
We'll see that as a theme coming up.
Yeah, and I mean their goalies split time, so something you usually don't want to see. So.
All right, so we go to the Archers beating on the Redwoods, and not really even letting the Redwoods get going in this one.
Yeah. Just right from the start, it looked close after one quarter, and we obviously, Pat Pat himself saw Rob Pennell and Ryder Garnsey just tear up Chaos last week, and all they could manage was one goal each in the first quarter. It was 3-2 Archers after the first quarter, but Redwoods gets another goal from Westberg, and then the lights go out. Just shut out completely in the second half.
Entirely.
Mac O'Keefe, 4 goals for Archers. Trey Leclerc, 2 goals for Archers. Ryan Ambler, Grant Ament, Tom Schreiber, all with a goal and an assist. Brett Dobson, 10 saves, and I don't see how we don't mention it every week now from here on out. Mike Sisselberger, I mean, he's just making a case for Rookie of the Year, a heck of a case. 10 of 15 on faceoffs. I mean, he's winning faceoffs at a 70% clip right now. Right. So, which is, outdueling T.D. Erlin of all people. So,
that's amazing right there.
Yeah.
Alrighty, that brings us over to the last game of the week, and we'll just say that Atlas did what Atlas has been doing all year, and that is playing 3 quarters out of 4. Because the quarter that they take off, they get shellacked and they can't come back from it. You take a look at this game, and they were up 7-6 at the half, and they actually played a pretty good first half. Chris Gray looked really good. He looked like he mid-season form without any breaks. Jeff Teat, a little bit concerning because he's not putting up anywhere near the points he has been putting up. But, he takes on triple teams, right? Continuously.
True.
Yeah. But as long as he's quarterbacking, the rest of these guys can do things. But, even that, it gets a little bit concerning. Like, you take a look at the third quarter, and this was a whitewash, a complete whitewash. It was all chaos all the time. Geddes, Ian McKay, Ty Kurtz, Chris Gray gives us 1 back, and then Brian Meniscus, Ty Kurtz, and Josh Byrne throw in Ryan Smith with a late goal just to be an exclamation point. At this point, it's 13-8, and really, unless an act of God comes by, this game is over with a full quarter to go. And sure enough, because again, you're talking about the best goalie in the league in Blaze Reardon, so you're only going to get a few. So if you're giving up 15, to get 11, you should feel that you had a pretty good offensive game. But man, 1 quarter, you take away the third, and this is a big win for Atlas. But this has been the MO for the last number of weeks, is there's been 1 quarter out of the 4 that they've entirely gone to sleep for. And whether it's the second or whether it's the third, in one case it was the fourth, they seem to keep maneuvering it around. But they can't seem to put together 48 minutes of lacrosse. So do they have the talent? Oh, yes, they do. Should they be doing all kinds of things? Yes, they should. And I keep reckoning back, do I think that was a stupid move cutting Clark Peterson? Yes, I do. For none other than you're not going to find a better person with chemistry with Jeff Teat than Clark Peterson, since they played since they were little boys together in Brampton. They played together in Cornell. They played together all the way through the Brampton organization right up until MSL before COVID. And then here in the PLL as well. Do they know each other? Yes, in their sleep. Nobody has to look. They're just going to be moving around and hitting each other with passes and scoring. And it's usually poetry in motion. And for some reason, Peterson now is not playing. And what's another thing that's made me kind of wonder is nobody else has picked him up. So maybe there's something behind everything.
Double J, I got to ask you. So Atlas is having this problem, right? This is like a wings problem right now, right? They're playing for 3 quarters. They fall to number 4. Is this a coaching problem? You think? Is it not him making any adjustments?
I don't know if it's that or it's just the adjustments that are made on them they just can't seem to overcome for a period of time. And then by the time they do get past it, it's too late.
It's too late. Yeah.
Because, well, especially Chaos, if you take a look at the Buffalo Bandits, nothing happened one at a time. Everything happened as an avalanche. Just ask the Colorado Mammoth. You score 1, you score 5. Boom, 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 boom. And then before you know it, you're down 5-1. So using small amounts of time as your team's reeling is what their MO is. And they took it to the hill on this one. Absolutely to the hilt.
Yeah, because it always seems like it's a defensive thing. Because I'm even looking, Baptiste went 23 for 29 at the faceoff dot. So you're getting those possessions. You did score 11 goals. So
if you look at
it
the
seems
stats,
like it's that back end, yeah.
If you look at all the stats, this is the thing. When I was doing the game stats on the recap, and it made me scratch my head because shot wise it was 46 to 34. They were tied with shots on goal. Ground balls, Atlas more than doubled them, 47 to 21.
Wow.
Faceoffs, 23 to 7. If I didn't see a score, I would have said Atlas won by 6. And then you have the Blaze Reardon factor, and there's been goaltending issues this year. They had Porter in this game. They didn't even put in Kostiuk. So, because he hasn't had a good year this year at all. But, they're looking a little bit like, the way Sean Scanoni was looking when things were going in on him. And at one point, you just see him throw up his arms. It's like, well, that's not going to put confidence if I'm the coach on the bench.
Yeah.
Oh.
Yeah. Sometimes all you need is just that one shift to stop the bleeding.
Yeah.
And it seems like Atlas is just not getting that shift right now.
It's a game of momentum, right, guys?
So, yep.
Absolutely. Yep. So we'll see how that works. But, next week is the All-Star game. So that's going to be interesting and not interesting both at the same time. If you want to see a 50-50 goal game, this is for you. Me, personally, I'm into it for the skills competition because I'm always blown away by what these guys can do. Both goaltending, actually in all three, the defensive things, the speed, shooting, they're just amazing what these guys can do. I will sit and watch the game just so I can get to the skills competitions.
I'm with you, Double G.
Backflip,
I'm with you, Double G. That's how I am with any of these All-Star games. I could care less about the All-Star game. I want to see the skills competition, like in hockey, basketball, even lacrosse. I want to see these guys do things, well. That Mitch Jones could do that. I couldn't even think about dreaming about that. So,
when you can get the oh wow moment on every single thing that they do, instead of once a quarter or once every 12 minutes or once every 10 minutes or once every 3, if it continually every single one, all right, that's 117 mile an hour shot. Huh?
Yeah.
That's 118 and a half. Huh? That's using a long pole and was 117 point. What? Things that just boggle my mind. Or watching the accuracy and watching them pick target after target after target. It was kind of like, showing my age here. When they used to do in the old Hockey Night in Canada, when they would do the showdowns, and it was one thing to do it on the spot, but this is a separately taped thing, and watch these guys just peg off these targets constantly, and it was just ridiculous. And you didn't know which one was going to turn, and it's the same with these guys. And then watching the goalie competition and having these guys fire shots and watching them save after save and who's got the quickest hands. Just mind blowing. So, but that's next week's happenings in the PLL.
Well, I'll tell you what, I can't wait for the following week because Archers, Red Dog, Water Dogs, Water Dogs. They're gonna square up next week. Both teams 4-1. ABC, you can't go wrong with that one.
Definitely.
I'm pumped up.
Yeah, and I have to just real quick before we move on. I think you have to. I think if Archers take that game in 2 weeks, you have to make them the favorites to win it all because they just won. Basically a battle for first place with Redwoods. Come back right after the All-Star break 2 weeks later, win another battle for first place with Water Dogs, and I mean,
and don't fool yourself, man. That's on a network that everybody's going to be watching. It's on ABC. It's not ESPN.
That's prime time.
And we know how important that having that first round bye is too. Playoffs, just that 1 week of rest is huge.
Yeah.
So,
alrighty, let's move ourselves on to the WLA, guys.
all right.
This was finally
who's
the
up
first
first,
time
Shawn
this
or
year.
me?
For the first time this year, I can say that my Shamrocks had a week worth talking about.
Well, if you want, I'll tackle my little doubleheader first.
All right.
So just another weird schedule quirk like that Coquitlam had, just like the one with Maple Ridge playing 2 times in 3 days. They had 2 away games against Burnaby within 4 days of each other. So Tuesday they end up traveling to Bill Copeland Arena. They fall 9-8. The usual suspects really for Burnaby: Jacob Dunbar 3-1. You had Connor Watson, Bobo Hunter, and Torrin Eccleston, each with a goal and 2 assists. Bright spot for Coquitlam: Matt Delmonico 2-2, and then Keegan Bell, who's one of the guys they acquired in the Christian Del Bianco trade, had a pair of goals. But 4 days later, the Adnacs go back to the swamp and in an even bigger defensive battle, fall 5-4 to Burnaby. And, with those 2 wins, Burnaby's really kind of moved up and has a chance. It's a little slim, but they have a chance at 4th place and sneaking into the playoffs. Victoria is probably going to put a stop to that, if they manage a couple more wins. But it's just nice to see. It's nice to see some of the lower teams kind of move up and gain a little momentum. So,
yeah, I was going to say that kind of takes me to the next point, I guess, with that because Victoria picked up a pair of wins this week, which kind of canceled out, unfortunately, those wins for Burnaby trying to make up some ground. Probably the big one was taking an 11-6 win over New Westminster. Again, Victoria is going with Cam Dunkerley in goal, and it seems to be working for the most part. And they put the rubber to New Westminster with 57 shots on goal. And I mean, this is a New Westminster team. Remember, they're still battling it out for first with Langley. And we'll get to it too. Also, Nanaimo's kind of getting in that picture as well.
Mm-hmm.
But I mean, even
at that,
yeah. I mean, they got hat trick by Patrick Dodds and hat trick by Marshall King. Those are kind of the guys you want to see step up. Corey Conway was a playmaker out there with 4 assists for Victoria. So that was a huge win for them. And then, they come back and the poor Coquitlam 10-7.
Tough week.
It was a tough week. And I mean,
to be an Adnacs fan.
We kind of talked about it. Once you get down, it's hard to come back. And after the first period, it was 5-1 Shamrocks. And it was kind of, after that, I mean, it was just catch up for the Adnacs, right? Casey Wilson, a name you don't really hear much, with the hat trick for the Shamrocks. As well as, I guess, for the Adnacs, bright spot for them all year really has been Clark Walter. He's been having actually a really good summer, even though his team struggled. He had 3 goals and assists. So those big wins for Victoria kind of, unfortunately, didn't help Burnaby much. I guess the other kind of big thing was, let me just go back here, was Nanaimo beating Langley on Wednesday night, and with the Salmon Bellies actually picking up a 14-5 win over Maple Ridge. That's now you've got that log jam up at the top of the standings, where both New West and Langley are sitting at 11-3. Because I mean, we looked at that Langley team. We thought, man, they could run away with this, but New West is keeping pace with them, and not that far behind at 10-4. You have Nanaimo, so they're right in that thick of things for first place as well. So you can't write off those other two teams against Langley right now.
Right. Yeah, and that's the thing. I put in my article that their win last night, Nanaimo's 10-6 over Maple Ridge last night, to move to within one game of New West and Langley, and their remaining 4 games, 2 are at home, and those 2 are against Langley and New Westminster.
So they're huge games.
Yeah. Along with, so they'll have away trips to Victoria and Burnaby, so to close out their regular season. So I mean, there's a realistic chance, if Nanaimo can pull off, another upset on either Langley or New West to really kind of move up and could see a 3-way tie, just like we saw a 4-way tie last year. So.
Yeah, it's possible. And I mean, Zach Mann's 72 points leading the league right now for Nanaimo. I mean, if you can't shut him down, he's gonna make you pay. Doesn't matter how good of a team you are.
Well, this is going to be another big week for the Shamrocks too, because they're facing the Timbermen on Wednesday, and then they face the Salmon Bellies on Thursday. This is kind of do or die. They blow both of those, and I wouldn't be surprised if they don't make the playoffs. So.
Yeah, that's true, because Burnaby has a pair of games, and they're at Maple Ridge and at Coquitlam.
Right.
So now they're looking at the teams beneath them in the standings still again.
So that could flip before we come back.
We're basically looking at a 4-game stretch where Burnaby's playing teams beneath them in the standings.
Right. So, teams have gone 1-8 and 1-9 in the last 10 games. Right. So barring an act of God for the Shamrocks, because he does wear Shamrock colors. We'll see what happens.
Yeah, that's true, because I mean, we could potentially see Victoria at 7, 8, and 1, and Burnaby could be 6 and 9 by the end of the week.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
So that would be something going into the final week of the regular season. So.
Yeah, well, that's the thing too, because Burnaby has that game in hand on the Shamrocks too, which could play a factor.
Yeah, the only thing that might work against them, I think, will be their last. I think their last week is a pretty rough stretch. I think they have New West and Langley, one against each. So,
all right.
Plus Nanaimo. So,
but move our way over to time is moving along here on us, guys.
Yeah.
And move on to MSL. Lucky for us, it was a little bit of a lighter week. There we had the marquee matchup though on Tuesday night in Six Nations, and that was when the Peterborough Lakers made their way over to Six Nations in what was for 2 periods a very, very entertaining, very close game. It was a 1-goal game. It was 7-6 after 2, and looked like this was going to go down to the wire. Well, normally it's the Lakers that come up with that big third period. Well, in this particular game, it was all Six Nations scoring 5 times before the Lakers even got a goal. In that third period, Brian Cole, Dalton Sulver, Shane Jackson, Randy Stotts, and Shane Jackson again, 2 of them on the power play. Eli McLaughlin put 1 in for Peterborough, and that was the difference in that game. What do I take out of this game? I'd say that if Peterborough is going to get themselves into penalty trouble, they're going to be in a whole lot of trouble, because the Six Nations power play is almost automatic right now. And when you're talking about both Stotts, you're talking about Brian Cole working, you're talking about Larson Sundown. I haven't even brought in Lyle Thompson into the mix, who doesn't score a lot anymore because he sets everybody else up. For him to sit around with 6 or 7 assists in a game is not uncommon anymore. And he just continually sits there and feeds, and away they go. Tim Edwards looked pretty good in a Six Nations jersey also. So, it doesn't seem to matter who. They just kind of fit in and away they go. And are they going to be pushed around? No, they're some kind of tough too. And Warren Hill is looking good. And, Landon Kells and Drew Hutchison as the goalies for Peterborough. Well, that's not Matt Vince. That's not Mike Poulin. So, do I put Six Nations as a much higher echelon thing now? Yeah, I do. So, we move forward, and then we have this stuff on Thursday. You had one of those games, Mike, Peterborough, and I had the Brampton game. Why don't you do the Peterborough game first, and I get into the fun and excitement of Brampton.
Oh boy, yeah. So Peterborough rebounds with a 15-10 win over Brooklyn. You get 3 goals and 2 assists from both Josh Courier and Holden Catoni. Kyle Matisse had a goal and 6 assists. Kell's a much better performance, 39 saves in the win. For Brooklyn, you had Connor Kernan with 2 and 2, Liam Osborne with 2 and an assist, and trio guys Sean Wesley, Tanner Cook, and Brady Kernan with a goal and 2 assists. Riley Hutchcraft, 53 saves in the losing effort. So,
yeah, so Peterborough in the bounce back thing, and it's exactly what we're thinking. It's the top 2 teams doing the top two teams thing, right? Well, Coburg and Brampton, they're fighting for a playoff spot, and it was basically whoever could sweep this little section there, because they played again tonight in the home and home. They were split down the middle in the season series at 1-1. And in this game, it's a bizarre game, man. I was at it, and a lot of strange things. Before the game, the Brampton Excelsiors honored Dean McLeod, lifetime member, and the vice president of or at least he was the vice president until he had brain cancer, and he's on the mends, hopefully, from that. But they gave him a signed Dan Teat jersey, who is the general manager and coach of the Major Excelsiors, signed by the entire team in a very moving ceremony before the game.
Awesome.
And it was very, very, very nice to watch. And all the Allied members around. So Dean was there with family, we could say.
Awesome.
And he took in a pretty entertaining game, let me tell you. Off the hop, though, it looked like Coburg was going to, kind of just run away with this thing. It was 4-2 after the first. All the chippy game. It was getting more and more chippy as we went along. We had a fight that was I don't even know how it started, really. It was off a break. And next thing you know, Lucas Nagy, goalie from Brampton, and Emerson Clark, who was having a great game. He already had a couple of goals. We're getting into it at center floor there. Obviously, Clark did something, because he wound up with a double minor for hitting from behind, 5-minute fighting major, a 10-minute misconduct, and a game misconduct. So he did something. And Nagy didn't like it, I guess. And, he got tossed out with a match penalty, and Caleb Slinger had to come in net for Brampton. It was only 1-1 in the second, so we had a 5-3 game going into the third. And then, shall we say, the lights got shot out, because there was 12 goals in the third. It was a rock'em sock'em robots kind of thing there. There was some hoopla that was happening in the dressing room. Emerson Clark and Lucas Nagy decided to keep going. But that's for another time, another place. But moving into the third period, Stephen Portelli all of a sudden put the Excelsiors on his back. He scored 2 quick goals, 1 on the power play, and you were talking about a tie game. Brampton continued that trend. Curtis Goddard, Tyler Ferreira, and Josh Medeiros all scored, which put it into a 6-goal run dating back to the second period. But Carson Moyer gets Coburg back in the game. James Whiteford answers for Brampton. You get Carson Moyer again, Marshall Palace, and Tyler Hendricks to tie the game up with 1:43 left in the game. David Anderson, with 1 minute left in the game, scores, and makes it a 10-9 game for Coburg, and on the power play to boot. Now, everybody in there thought this game is done. Another loss inside of the last minute. Brampton's already lost 3 of them inside 5 seconds to the end. Stephen Portelli scores a goal with 1 second left in regulation, and off they go into overtime. In the extra period, Henry Follows of Brampton scores a minute 59 into it, and Brampton walks away with an 11-10 overtime win. Very entertaining game. We move on to Sunday and the rematch. This just before we got on the air. And you had Coburg coming away with an 11-9 victory. Now, the difference was the first. It was 3-1 in the first, 4-4 in the second, 4-4 in the third. Very entertaining game. The big star in this game was David Anderson with 6 goals for Coburg. Tanner Buck had a goal, 5 assists. And Tyler Hendricks had a goal and 4 assists for Coburg. For Brampton, one of their call-ups, Bowie Horseman, he had 2 goals and 3 assists. And James Whiteford had a couple of goals in that one as well. So, once again, we're exactly where we sat just before, with Coburg sitting in the playoff spot, Brampton looking out, even though they're tied 3 wins apiece. The goal differentials are what's going to be the thing that's going to kill Brampton, because they're scoring, with the exception of this week, they've had really a tough time scoring. But this week, I think they've got 20 goals in 2 games, so maybe they're starting, because they've also had the call-ups, right? Since the Excelsior Junior A team is out of the playoffs in OJLL, they've called up 3 or 4 guys to bolster out their lineup. And it certainly looks like they're making an impact. Bowie Horseman is one of them. He made a good impression in the game on Thursday and definitely was showing that he belongs in tonight's game. Yeah. Next week is a whole other animal.
Yeah, I got to figure the other thing that's probably going to hurt Brampton is, obviously sitting at 3-12, they have just 1 game left, while Coburg is 3-9, and
they have a couple of games.
4 games left. So,
yeah. Well, Brooklyn plays Six Nations on Tuesday.
To get the win,
Coburg plays Brooklyn on Wednesday. That's a very important game for Coburg, because that's a determining factor. Then we have the big one. And unless something changes, I should be at this game. Six Nations in Peterborough for the rematch from last week. And on Sunday, we have the Peterborough Lakers going into Coburg, which means that the Coburg Community Center will be packed. It's the only time of the year that it gets packed is when Peterborough comes to town and everybody drives down the highway to come see it. Bring your coats, boys, girls. It's cold in there. Brooklyn and Brampton play also on Sunday night. Busy Sunday night schedule.
Yeah.
And that covers the MSL games. OGLO, really quickly, they've started their playoffs. Up to this point now, 3 of those series are not much of a series. Mimico has been going to town on Whitby. Orangeville has just been taking Six Nations to the woodshed. Both are 2-0. The Beaches and the Oakville Buzz are tied 1 game apiece. Burlington is up 2-0 on St. Catharines. Remember, these are best 3 out of 5 series. So we're going to see these things whittle down by the time we're up on the air next week.
Yeah.
All right. That covers us for this week, because the OSL is just finishing up their season. They have 1 game this week. Oakville won, and that covers up their season. We already knew the playoff structure with Oakville first and Brooklyn second. Just the Ennismore and the Clairview teams didn't make it. Those playoffs will start up next week, so we'll have more to talk about with Ontario Series Lacrosse and the road to the President's Cup in Oakville this year. It was a heck of a show, eh, Mike?
Yeah.
We got an awful lot of things done in this one here. God, it was great to have Michelle Bowyer live and in person discussing all the things that are good and not so great in women's lacrosse. And it's great to know that with her and her team there at Global Lacrosse there to be in charge of things and to be spearheading things, that things are on the right path towards getting things done and giving young girls, let alone girls who are in their teens and above, chances to play and chances to play high caliber at high levels. And the future looks very, very bright with things going on with them. So yeah, with Catherine Canati over in Australia with her co-founder, it's just it's amazing, and I'm looking forward to having her back on in a few months to see what progress has come from where we were, and hopefully we don't have any more of these tournament horror stories that we're listening to, and some of the other issues that we talked about. So remember that you can follow us on Facebook, on Twitter, on Thread, on Twitch, and on YouTube at All Across All the Time. You can also catch us at EOP Sports, Edge of Philly Sports Network, at www.eopsports.com/lacrosse. Come check us out a couple of times a day. The news is always changing. We have our fingers on that pulse of the situation, and we are up to date with everything to do lacrosse. Shawn had to take off. Mike, any last words?
I'm definitely excited. I'm definitely excited for MSL and WLA to see who's going to get that last spot in MSL between Brampton and Cobourg. And I won't lie, I'd love to see another three-way tie at the top in WLA when all is said and done. So,
get our calculators out and try and figure it out again this year.
Yep, and I will be firing up my my Timberman train.
Go Rough Shamrocks, go.
So I really think that that they can't be overlooked come playoff time. I mean, we spent all season talking about Langley and New West, and
it is refreshing though to have somebody else in the mix there who didn't absolutely go and try and free agent their team from top to bottom.
Yeah.
So that's pretty cool too. Me personally, I'm looking forward to the skills competition.
Yeah, that should be a doozy as well.
That's going to be pretty cool. Hey, Shawn's back. Just in time for the last word, Shawn. Any last words?
Yeah, I wish my internet worked better.
Yeah. If you're with me and Rogers, it's kind of hit and miss. So
I'm not sure if that's still any better.
Looking at the bars, hoping it stays up there.
No, you know what? I guess first, thanks so much to Michelle for coming on tonight. That was such an awesome discussion.
Absolutely.
And just looking forward to the WLA this week. We're coming to the home stretch now. That playoff fight's going to be awesome to watch.
Absolutely. Also, if you're in the Oakville area, next Saturday is the Fan Cup. If you want to find us, we're at the Holiday Inn around the corner from the Fan Cup from the Friday doing parking lot. Remember, that's part of the competition too. So, lots of things at the auction, online and in person. Go check out the Fan Cup page on Facebook. Find out where that it's got a link to the auction on there. There's some really cool stuff there. I know that I've been able to call in a few favors and get some things up there, as well as a few others. So there's from any team you can possibly think of, we have stuff from everywhere. So give it a look, and remember to come back and check out. We want to thank you again for coming aboard with us every week. Remember, we also want to thank Pat for his work on the PLL as well, and
Eduardo as well.
Eduardo as well, yes, yes, and looking forward to having more from these guys upcoming, and then pretty soon we'll be talking. Hard to believe, middle of the summer already. We'll be talking NLL soon.
Free agency. 2 weeks coming up. Free agency.
The drafting is coming up, and then next thing you know, we're doing training camp. So get the fur coats out again, and away we go. But for now, that's all we got. And please keep safe. Keep coming back to our sites and keep checking out the information. We will have everything for you as it happens. Until next week, where we'll be back 9 p.m. Eastern. For Muffler Mike, for Shawn Slaght, and for Pat Bernard over in Philly, I'm Gary Groob in Toronto, wishing you the best of weeks. And until we see each other next week, keep your stick in your hand.